Let me start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon. So we're back today to talk some more about Tartaria. And so I had requested to do this as a form of a sharing of the screen and a little bit of a watch party, because there's a couple of different awesome documentaries that I had seen in the past that really were enlightening to me. And so I'm super grateful to Ken. Thank you for honoring me with this time. And we both found these awesome green screen backgrounds so we could embody the Tartaria energy. And so I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. Les, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh no, not at all. Just go. I'm excited to watch this and see what Chand is going to present to me.
I guess just in case somebody's like, go ahead. What's that?
Oh, just I'm excited to learn more about Tartaria and the mud floods, and like figure out the truth of it all. So
Yeah, me too.
well,
Well, yeah,
figure out our origins, right? So yeah.
Oh gosh, origins. This Tartaria thing is just going to bring us back a couple hundred years, but it's certainly going to help us to untangle why our origins are so hidden and our history has been moved around. But a lot of that just has to do with consciousness. But for those of you this is your first time seeing myself or Ken here on this page, I am Chandra. I'm a regenerative medicine specialist. I'm also a priestess on mission work. Been traveling the world since right before COVID and unraveling false histories, false doctrines, and pre-warning particular spiritual leaders and government leaders about the prophecies getting ready to unfold that would be false evidence appearing real. And I'm currently in Oaxaca on mission work. And part of that mission work is sharing information like this with you. I am a co-administrator, administration on a telekinesis page, which is where I met Ken. In the telekinesis page, I help to teach people about purifying their energy so that they can tap into their chi, their energy, and be able to do telekinesis through either, as Anthony, our main Jedi guru on that page, teaches, through tapping into our magnetic force. I tend to be more of a manifester and tap into the consciousness grid and seek for the universe to bring things to me however it wants to. But there's lots of ways to do telekinesis, and that is an awesome page to learn. If you aren't already on that page, then certainly you can go follow one of our links to get there. Anyways, I guess we can get started. Unless, do you want to add anything to that intro?
No, not at all. That was a great intro, and yeah, let's just get started. So.
Okay, so guys, we're going to go into this screen share thing. I am brand new to using this technology, but I'm excited to be doing it, so please bear with me. We're going to start with some history and what is Tartaria. So we're going to, just one moment, click this button. And so let me get over here. Okay, so are you seeing the screen move right now? Because it takes the screen out.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so everybody, Tartaria Mud Flood Reset. This happened in the early 1800s, and our history at that point in time was dramatically changed, especially in the Western world. So, European nations and all of those that come from it. You'll hear a lot from people in like India and in the East. They'll tell you that our history is false. And you'll see that there's a lot of purposeful division to keep our people from communicating and really like sharing history. And that's for the purpose of keeping this kind of history from our people. So Tartaria, which they say is called the Great Grande Tartaria, is actually originally an Asian culture, and they call it Mongolian, and it originated there, and it ended up going globally. So on this awesome website, which you should be able to see at the top there, this goes over some great history. So I'm just going to scroll through this with you. We went briefly over this when Ken and I first started talking, but of course we were really excited. I didn't have any slides for you. I was brand new to this technology. So now I can kind of walk you through this. So as you can see, it started really far up north from India, but it ended up going global. And so the Tartarian architecture you'll find all over the world. and underwater, interestingly. But that's a whole other story. Let's see. So they're saying that it started, the word Tartarus was a Greek word, and it had to do with how your soul spent eternity. The Tartarians were, let's say, indigenous people, but they were very, very, very tall. And so they assumed that they were part of the Elohim from the biblical times, or as you might say, the incarnated angels hybrid children. Yeah, so we'll go from there. They were approximately, they say 8 to 12 feet here. They find giant remains of Tartarians that are up to, I think it was 18 feet here in Mexico. I live in Oaxaca, Mexico, which has a lot of Tartarian temples. But they say the average was 8 to 12 feet. And there are a lot of remains of people that are more like that, 8 to 12 feet, more so than those 15 to 18 feet tall ones. Okay, so this is what Tartarian architecture looks like. And if you are from anywhere in the US, all of those major cities, Chicago and Missouri, was it St. Louis, all these cities have this absolutely spectacular architecture. And a lot of the times you'll even find that this architecture is somehow buried. At least one, sometimes several stories of it are buried underground, and they'll have windows just sticking up out of the ground, or they'll have doors. And they have all this incredibly ornate architecture that's all done in stone and with rebarb and everything going through them, that back in the 17 and 1800s never should have been existing according to current mainstream belief systems of how we did things. Okay. We'll keep going through here. So the Tartarian temples, each and every one of them has these awesome, intricate designs. Now, if you were to learn about energy medicine and frequency, you would see that each of these correlates to a certain healing frequency. And so what it turned out to be was that these buildings were actually used for healing. And these places that we're now calling temples are actually repurposed homes and hospitals. Well, let's see. So the tops of each building had antennas, and you can see these have the glass ball and the antennas on top. And each building would receive etheric energy, which was coming off of the pyramids. So the pyramids, most of you watching this probably already know that the pyramids were actually energy accumulators, etheric energy accumulators, which is why they are located exactly where they are on the grid lines. And so they projected out that etheric energy, and these antennas that were put through each and every building would then accumulate those. And that would then be accumulated into the area that we like to think of was a fireplace, but really it was their etheric energy accumulation in each building. Oh, which is where we get here into the lovely, they're not fireplaces, these are etheric energy accumulators in each home. So there's never any evidence of there ever being a fire in any of these. Instead, what they found was that throughout each and every one of these buildings, these Tartarian temples or homes, as the case may be, there is steel rebarb that goes all the way up, and it connects to the antennas on the ceiling, or not the ceiling, on the roof. Or some of these buildings are really big buildings, have the antennas that come out the side of the building as well. And so the rebarb would connect into that and then come into the central chamber that would end up being this thing that looks like a fireplace. But there was never any soot found in any of these. This was actually just where the energy would accumulate. And then in the home, the lamps and things like that would each have their own little mini receivers for that etheric energy. And so that's how things were powered back in those days before the 1830 reset. Okay, so let's see. There's another fireplace. There's some really beautiful ones. I grew up in Astoria, Oregon, which has several Tartarian homes and buildings in it. And I had seen these growing up, and it was always just fascinating to me because it made no sense.
You're from Astoria, spiritual place. I love it. I love Astoria.
Very much.
Southern Oregon, Northern Cali is that area. That whole area is the best. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oregon is amazing for sure. It's God's country. I was raised in Astoria, Oregon. where the Columbia River goes into the ocean. And oh my gosh, it's absolutely beautiful. But our city or our town, it was only like 2,500 people there when I got there. There's like 10,000 there now, maybe 12.
Yeah.
But it is very haunted. It had burnt down several times, and it
Oh
was
yeah.
one of the
So
first
you're
places.
from the so you know I'm from the Pacific Northwest. You're from the Pacific Northwest, so yeah, we got the same vibe. Then that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that does make some sense. Now, where are you living now?
Washington State.
Washington State. Okay, what part
Yeah,
of
right
Washington?
above Oregon. So, so
Yeah, yeah. What part of Washington are you in?
I like Spokane Valley, which is like pretty much
Spokane.
like next to Idaho. Yeah, so
Yeah, Spokane's nice. I like Spokane a lot.
nice,
Let's see.
nice.
Okay. Oh, so now we're getting into
Anyway,
the
yeah,
mud
let's
flood
get back to
discussion.
Tartaria.
Yeah, yeah. Tartaria. Do you have any Tartarian buildings in Spokane?
Yeah, well, actually, the one of the John Levi, like the about John Levi, like I saw a video embedded on this website, but on John Levi, the probably the best, arguably the best Tartarian presenter and researcher. Yeah, he like made a few videos about. I think one of our court building is like a Tartarian building or something like that, if I remember correctly. But he did speak about my city. So yeah, very, very cool. I feel honored, or yeah, I don't know if that's the right appropriate thing to say, but pretty
Oh,
cool that I
no,
live
for
in a
sure.
Tartarian presence, if that was true or not. Who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like a lot of the awakening saints or the incarnated angels or whatever, they all ended up in towns where there was Tartarian presence. Like we
Mm,
had the Astor Building, the Favell House. There's a lot. I think our courthouse, our post office, everything there, like that didn't burn down in the Great Burnings. Uh, they were Tartarian architecture.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I have a lot of questions for you later for sure. Like, so, like, I don't know if you can answer them all, but yeah, you can resume with this presentation. But as I'm going through this presentation, I already have like like at least 10, 20 different questions. But I don't want to be cutting you off as
That's
we keep going.
okay. You got a notebook to write them down, and we can go through the
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. Maybe I should get a note. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, go ahead and resume. I should probably
Okay,
write this down.
perfect. Okay, so the mud flood is the term that was coined to the event, which occurred only a few hundred years ago during the end of the reign of the Tartarian Empire. So back in the early 1800s, we had a monstrous mud flood where the vast majority of the United States and a lot of Mexico ended up being flooded, similar to how it just happened in North Carolina, and so the properties ended up, as you can see here, up to several stories of the underground, and so just like mud came through from huge torrential hurricanes and storms and melt offs, and it was at the last conjunction that we had this happen, and so let's see here. So here we go. You can see some pictures of buildings where you can see where the window line is down below where the actual soil line is. And so after the mud flood reset, the people that survived went in and just built up around it. And so you can see all these dirt roads around these very technologically advanced buildings. And there's some more videos if you guys want to watch those. And I think that was that on that one. Okay, so I wanted to go really quickly over the evidence about giants. I know those of you that are watching this, you probably already know giants exist. I wanted to talk a little bit about even pre-Tartaria. So, because pre-Tartaria, we already had, monstrous temples with megalithic stones and all of that, and evidence even on the temple walls of giants existing. You see the art in the Egyptian depictions of how things were built, and you see a giant with these blocks that's carrying on a stick, right? And then you see a normal sized human walking alongside them. And it's like, how did we build these pyramids? Well, we had giants among us at the time. We had a lot of different things going on. So throughout the world, there is evidence of giants having lived among us. And we're not just talking the 12 to, or I guess they're going to say 8 to 18 foot Tartarians. We're talking 20, 30 foot tall giants, which are the size of giants that would need to have been around to be in these particular stairs. So there's places around the world where the giants actually were, like they were talking about in Egypt, where they were 20 to 30 feet tall. And there's evidence around that all over the world. Let's see. This is the one we just did, right? No, okay, this is the megalithic. Sorry. Okay, so on this website here, it goes over the megalithic structures. These stones, you can't really tell in that picture. These stones are so huge that nobody could even lift them in this day and age. And the technology needed to be able to fit them together, we can't even replicate it. They put them together like puzzles. On this particular stone, they had actually
Sorry to cut
found.
you off. I'm not seeing the stones on the screen.
Is the screen showing you right now a picture of the monolith that was buried? It should say.
No, it's the screen's like I'm not. I'm seeing like where it says showering. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
It should say second Baalbek monolith, 1,200.
No, that's not what I am seeing.
Oh no! Let me get back over here. Okay, maybe I need to get rid of that one and do presents and stop that one and add a different present. Let me try that. Share screen. Evidence of giants. So you didn't get to see the evidence of giants with the big stairs, right?
No, I didn't
Interesting.
see it.
Okay. Apparently, I need to come in and take each one of these out as I go. Okay, so this is the different places around the world where there are huge stairs, and then they've found like monstrously huge beds, monstrously huge bowls, and I'm getting ready to show you a monstrously huge knife.
Knife, I'd love to see that. That's more, to me, that's more convincing, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're both convincing, but I would love to see the knife. That'd be pretty crazy.
Let me see if this is going to let me. Okay, so these are just showing you some stairs, and now I'm going to stop this screen, and then I'm going to present, share screen, and then the one that has the polygonal. No. We wanted to do we already did that one. Okay, so this is the polygonal monolith. This was just showing huge stones that were completely carved in place and just left. So during this time frame, we had a reset, and there was an ascension period where all the different giants and the ascending or the awakened people, so regardless of what size you were, if you were unity conscious and you were tapping in and you were, tapped in with the planet, tapped in with God, and all of that, you started your ascension symptoms. And at the end of that conjunction, those people all disappeared, regardless of their size. Yes, the giants disappeared, the majority of them. The ones that didn't ended up in the state parks, like we discussed the other day, and segregated themselves from humanity because of the fact that humanity is just pretty darn disgusting. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this screen off. Hey, when I pulled that off, did it pull you up? Are you currently on a screen with... Is it going through a screen with a bunch of divers with a big knife?
I mean, at the moment I see you and I.
Okay, let me see here. So share screen. Here we go. Aha! You seen that?
Whoa!
Yeah.
That is a big knife. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, where was this found?
This was found off the coast. I believe this one was off the coast of India. Let me see. I believe that one was off the coast. Just a second. We'll go down to the bottom of this because there's a lot of really cool stuff on this website, but I'm going to scroll by, guys. You guys should still go back and look at this kind of stuff because it talks about things that just should not even exist. But at the bottom of here, it goes to, here we go. Where is this? Japan. This was off the coast of Japan. I was wrong. So yeah, so as we were seeing those stairs where giants lived and the castles where giants lived above ground, they also found them below ground. And this particular one, they also found a giant's knife.
That's pretty crazy. Wow.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this screen off. And here, this is a, let's see, did it pull that up for you? If I pull that, nope, okay. Presenting giant books.
Oh, books, huh? I'm excited to see books.
Yeah, this is right here in Mexico. So these are books that are currently in the University of Mexico, and
Oh, really?
they have booths
Whoa.
and they have booths, they have clothes, they have books, they have dishes, they have all kinds of stuff for giants in Mexico. And this is this one. This book was made in 1715, and it is
Supposedly, right?
well, not so it's carbon dated at 715, which makes sense given that the reset was in the early 1800s, and so the giants were gone
Mm,
after that.
mm,
This one
interesting.
wasn't bound until 1915. It's
So,
currently
so
in.
just can I ask a quick question real quick? Because I mean, this is really on my mind. Like, so are we actually in 2024 in your opinion? Do you think that is at least true, or do
No.
you think it's a little bit? Are we a little bit off? I mean, what is your opinion?
Okay. So our calendars and all that have been adjusted to distract people from what time we're really in, so they would be
Mhm.
unaware. In Ethiopia, we're actually, I can't remember, is it 4 or 7 years? Like they hadn't changed when they had the big Bible changes, and then the whole King James movement wanted to change the calendars. Ethiopia refused. So the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible is still the same, and their calendar is still the same. And 2019 was actually 2012. So there's 7 years. They say that we've been fast forwarded. There's a month that they've taken out. They've adjusted all kinds of days. But in addition to that, more evidence that our calendar is completely skewed and our scriptures and things are all wrong is astrologers and people who study, astrology have looked up, like, okay, in order for instance, the wise men or the kings to come and find Christ by following that star, and for that star to have guided them to Bethlehem, that would have had to have only have been 800 years ago instead of 2,000 years ago. So there's a lot of things that just don't add up, that the
Mhm.
government has changed before the mud flood, this last mud flood reset, and several resets. Every time there's a reset, this global elite that go hide underground and come back out, they come out and they make up the new story of what they want things to be.
Mm.
And they take in the orphans, and which is what we're getting to next. They take in the orphans, they teach the orphans what they want them to believe the new truth is, and they send them back out into the world with that new agenda. So
Is it okay if I ask another question real quick?
yeah.
So like so what exactly causes the reset in your opinion, or like the mud flood itself? Is it like a punishment from God, so to speak, or is it like engineered by these like elites, so to speak, that you
It's not engineered
go
like
for
that.
it?
It's just a reset. It's like we just restart the simulation, so to speak. But
Oh,
like a lot of people that are spiritual or religious, they look at it as like, this is the reckoning. This is the time your soul has had the opportunity to prove itself. You have been tempted. You have been tested. You have been tempted again and tested again. And now you are going to either be reckoned with, or you're going to be rewarded. And so you can look around the world and you can see, it's like so many people that were guided oh so safely through this, and they've stayed away from the jobs, or if they were forced to it because of their, government or their work or whatever the heck, they were guided to people like myself or someone to help them detox very quickly. There's just this time frame is that time frame where if you're a person who believes in God and how God does things and according to our prophecies, then this is the time that people's truth comes forward and they are then rewarded or reckoned with accordingly. And so this is right now in that window where you're seeing a lot of people recognize that, and they're going, oh crap, this is real. And so they're starting to make things right. So you're seeing a lot of villains, like, the evil people, those narcissist scumbags, those adulterers, and those various promiscuous, horrible, disgusting, defile your family people, realizing just what horrible things that they were doing or are doing, and stopping and going, oh my God, I need to purify myself. I'm so sorry. And how do I make this right? And so we have this huge influx of people looking to become spiritually grounded, to purify themselves, to connect in with God, to make right by the people and the things, that they've done wrong. So you see, and I'm getting a lot of people saying, oh, my ex wrote this, and they apologize for all their years of abuse to me, and that was just like such a release, or whatever. They get there's a lot of people right now that are just actively clearing their karma, because they're recognizing that they're like, oh, whoa, this is real. And that's a beautiful thing. There's still some time left for that. For those of people who are out there going, well, wait a minute, I didn't think this was real. And I've been a horrible person.
Right.
I lie, I cheat, I steal, I'm a womanizer, I'm a whatever, I lack unity consciousness. And I'm like,
right. So just one quick question though. So you mentioned that, in the last reset, like these elites like went underground or something like that. So like, if you're do you think in the next reset there's these like billionaire, trillionaire people, like these elite people, they're gonna go underground? Do you think there are some people that are gonna go underground again, so to speak, to try and basically like live beyond this next phase, if you will? Like, do you think?
Those if you've been watching what's going on with like Zuckerberg and Elon, all these guys are building underground compounds, or already have built underground compounds.
Oh, interesting.
And because they know that as solar maximum comes, and they're also bombarding us with 5G radiation, that this is going to get really down and dirty really fast. And so there's going to be a period of time that they're going to need to be secreted away. But I also think there's a component to that where it's like everybody that's on the planet realizes that they took part in causing all these issues, between their HARP and their 5G radiation and their spraying toxins and all this stuff. It's like they're making these compounds just as much to protect themselves from the survivors of this as they are to protect themselves from the radiation and the flooding. But yeah, that's already very well documented that these guys are doing that, and that they've had that established. But they also have ownership and access to the already existing underground tunnels and communities where they can go. So yeah, that's very, very real.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's all I gotta ask. You can resume with a presentation. So
it's okay. We can have a little chit chat while we show people some more of these awesome books that they've found here in Mexico. Yeah.
Well, I guess my questions weren't like relevant to this.
Oh, for sure, you're doing great. So I'm going to close this screen off. Okay, we already did that one. Okay, so now I would like for us to everybody grab some popcorn. You were saying earlier that you have met a person that you really value their Tartarian education. I have this awesome Tartarian education. I thought, well, this is already put together so well, so we're going to go ahead and present it, and we'll pick up our popcorn. Yeah, let's see. Share screen. This one. Okay, sharing and play. Perfect.
Welcome, everyone. In this week's episode of Hidden History, I will be discussing the orphan trains and its connection to the Tartarian civilizations. When you look at history, you will discover that there are some huge events that have happened that don't seem to be mentioned. One such event is called the orphan train movement, which was a welfare program that transported over 250,000 children, with claims the number was actually over 540,000 on locomotive carriages from crowded urban areas in the eastern United States to foster homes in the Midwest United States. It was claimed that these infants had been orphaned, abandoned, abused, or homeless, when actually these were new immigrants. So where did all these influence come from? Before the orphan train movement occurred between 1864 to 1889 and became so prevalent in the United States, there were many stories at this time from the American Indian tribes who had fought against the white giants. It would suggest from the historical information that the red-haired Tartarian giants of Siberia and northern Asia did actually settle in North America and Pacific areas in America and South America. Therefore, the vast landmass, which became known as Tartaria Magna or Great Mighty Place, was the location where the descendants of the white giants established their civilization alongside the Phoenician Aryans and the Scythian Aryans. There are so many Native Americans who once fought against the ancestors of Tartarian giants. Over thousands of years, the stories which the American Indian tribes mesmerized about the white giants became an integral aspect of American Indian folklore. Some of the white giants also contributed to the development of Great Tartaria in the expanses of North America. Many of the white giants had a profound awareness of the geomagnetic structure around the planet Earth and constructed ornate looking buildings where the ley lines converged across the North American continent. Most of the white giants who inhabited the North American continent had mostly disappeared from the United States by 1728, as they knew how to navigate through the passages which had been constructed beneath North America by the Lemurians and the Atlanteans. Once the first mud flood began and partially destroyed Great Tartaria on the 8th of January 1740, and the second mud flood did the same on the 29th of October 1834, many of the Tartarian giants had already escaped. Wherefore, after the third mud flood arose on the 7th of June 1892, the Tartarian giants had to establish another civilization by using the prehistoric subterranean passages to gain access into the concealed depths below the Appalachian Mountains and the Rocky Mountains. The communities of Tartarian giants also did the same in other remote areas on planet Earth. Although this seems a bit far out, when you do the research and look at the stories, you will then realize there are some very interesting dots to connect here. And that is why there is such a fascination with this subject. Both the white giants and their descendants, the Tartarian giants, seemingly regrouped inside the hollow earth. Did the white giants and the Tartarian giants build the shimmering crystal cities, which are believed to have constructed within the hollow earth? The architecture of Great Tartaria had...
I'm going to pause for just one moment because I want to talk a little bit about the white giants and the Native Americans. I have been called a lot to work with the Native American culture about the reset and about the racism that is just fed into all of the Native Americans against white people in particular. And a lot of that stems from these white giants because they have these stories of these big white beings that were massacring, eating them. And so there were a lot of giants that were just like, they might as well have been Neanderthals, right? And so they were going through and they were killing Native Americans, they were killing Caucasians, they were killing any small person really. But they didn't bring in the other ethnic groups, you know, as far as like bringing in the different orphans that they're going to talk about here in just a moment, until after that last mud flood. And so they brought in all these other children and people from other countries, from other ethnic backgrounds, to be slaves or to repopulate or whatever you want to call it. I mean, they really weren't slaves. They were brought in to repopulate, but they also were using incubators to create babies, which we're getting ready to go into. And then they were put into these asylum orphanages where they were taught to hate one another, to keep them divided. And that's like the big thing right there. It's like, it's never been about these different races of people. It's always been about these government leaders that have always known the truth and have kept it from us, and then done this whole thing with the orphan reset. So I'll go ahead and push play again. Unless, do you have anything you want to add or ask?
Yesterday during our interview, but I've always whole mud flood reset thing makes sense to me, but I've always wondered, like, what about indigenous people? Like that's the
yeah.
and stuff. But now I feel like with your answer, I'm starting to kind of understand a little bit more and stuff. Like, like I did a lot of martial arts and stuff, still do. I box and stuff. These martial arts, they claim their lineages go way back and stuff, and it's just like, but like, are these people like lying? Were they told like a false history as well? Like, it's just, I don't know, like, or did someone like like made some stuff up as well about them? It's just, I don't know, it's just very interesting stuff to speculate, but yeah, it's just the more we get.
Imagine, if you would, that you're a little Asian child, right? And you are raised in an orphanage in the US, and it's the 1800s. And so they say to you that your parents have died in the flood, or whatever story they give to you. But, oh, you're from a samurai family. This is where you're from. This is your lineage. You carry this on. So now that child's been told that's what their history is, and that this group of, well, we're getting ready to go into that, but this group of people has come to rescue you, and this is your history. This is your history. This is the history of these other people. And sorry about your lost kid, but we're raising you now, and here's your new history. Here's what we're going to share with you. And so if you really dive deep into this period of time where we had these big orphanage asylums, you'll see they were segregating the kids based by their color, their ethnic background, and then they were feeding them divisive stories. And so then they put them out into society, and very purposely to keep them divided, so they would stay focused on working and doing what the government wants, but keeping them from uniting. And that's been pretty par for the course by the governments, throughout time. You can see that documented. I think I was telling you before, even just like regarding our scripture, and like our Old Testament was created by the conquerors of the Gnostic Jews. So, they took and they cut down all the Ashura trees, took out all reference to divine feminine, took out all reference to the hierarchy of the kingdom of heaven, and simplified everything and put everything in this patriarchal, oppressive version. And so, who created this collaboration of these books, and why? What was the purpose? It creates this division. If it's creating a division, that's the furthest thing from unity consciousness. That's right. One of the source, right? That wants to see you as being equal to one another, wants to see you all as being unified and one with God and fulfilling your life purposes. However you want to go about the manifestation wording for that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there where you're dealing with satanic elite that want the human race to do what the government says. And if you become fully unity conscious with God or with the creation matrix, and you know how to manifest things for yourself, you'll no longer be hanging out worshiping these people and doing whatever the heck they tell you to do. And they know that. It's like, then you'll go start your own empire, you start your own business, you become a competitor to them. And they are unwilling to let those reins go. And so they've been doing what they do. But here,
right. Sorry, quick question. One more thing I want to ask. So, to your knowledge, like, is it just in America that this like orphan train type of thing took place, or did it happen in Europe? Did it happen in Asia?
It did happen in Europe.
So sorry, so did you say it did or it didn't?
It did happen in Europe. It happened in Ireland. There's several places it happened. Actually, they're going to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's resume. Then I'm very curious.
Been extensively found in Russia, China, Taiwan, and Japan, and in numerous other locations across the planet. And their buildings were constructed with geopolymer concrete, which became stronger over time. And the enormous iron and glass structures of Great Tartaria were surmounted with domes and metal needles that were used to continually absorb and transmit the atmospheric ether. Every power station of Great Tartaria, small and large, had brass pipe organs to harmonize and physically heal the Tartarian Aryans by the use of sound waves, which is now a scientific process called cymatics. The architecture of the chapels, churches, and cathedrals on Earth share similar cymatic design patterns that were designed to focus and geometrically shape the sound waves to maximize the vibration and tone. So the minds of the Tartarian Aryans could easily attune into the faster resonance of the Christ consciousness. Everyone who lived in Great Tartaria was fully aware of how the constant telluric currents of planet Earth were extracted and stored in the symmetrical toroid coils of the telluric generators and electrical capacitors in their own buildings. The single toroid coils were covered with copper and positioned below the metallic towers. Alongside this, each of the massive star fortresses was constructed by the Tartarian Aryans and used to energetically regulate the distribution of fresh water and electromagnetic currents around planet Earth. All over the planet, this incredible advanced technology was utilized for the extraction of the telluric currents by the absorption of the atmospheric ether. And even today, the telluric currents still accumulate in some castles and palaces and many other buildings, as such remnant structures retain the same telluric generators and electrical capacitors, even though they were no longer accessible for public usage. The various kinds of telluric generators and electrical capacitors were designed as elaborate roof grids, small window openings, the metallic ornaments in the corner of the buildings, pointed antennae, and with artistic ornaments or metallic spheres. Within different countries, invading armies that constantly fought against Great Tartaria then seized their palaces and quicksilver power stations and turned them into buildings of governance, colleges, museums, universities, banks, and even tourist attractions. How this actually happened, we can only speculate. But the evidence would most certainly point towards the buildings of Great Tartaria becoming repurposed after the mud floods had occurred. Were some of the infants on the orphan trains from Great Tartaria? These infants had seemingly been accompanied to North America with their parents and were from the cultures of the Vitus Mundus, the old world of mainland Europe. Once they arrived in the eastern United States, the infants and parents were sometimes separated, and the infants were placed in the Novus Mundus, the new world of the elites and the secret societies. Was this done so they could be reprogrammed by them? After the destruction of Great Tartaria, did some kind of cognitive dissonance occur and cause significant psychiatric issues for millions of adult Tartarian Aryans? We have to remember that even when the orphan train movement began, the third mud flood had not yet happened and would not occur until the 7th of June 1892, which means there would have been a successive levels of the migration into North America from the urban settlements of mainland Europe, which had been extensively damaged after the destruction of Great Tartaria had arisen once the first mud flood and the second mud flood had ended. The supervised welfare program that became known as the orphan train movement was used to transport infants from the overcrowded urban areas of the eastern United States. Considerable overcrowding had occurred because successive levels of immigration had come into North America in a short time span. And there was not the resources to deal with the immigration problem in the eastern United States. Hence, the parentless infants of the orphan trains were taken to the foster homes across the rural areas in the Midwest United States. The various orphan trains operated between the 15th of January 1864 to the 20th of December 1889. Although this did carry on for 40 years after in smaller numbers. During these dates, around 250,000 to 320,000 parentless infants were relocated. Although many Americans believed it is more than 540,000 children were actually relocated during the Victorian period. The co-founders of the orphan train movement claimed that these infants were orphaned, abandoned, abused, or homeless, but this was not always true. Were they mostly the children of the immigrants and the poor, destitute families who had escaped the destruction which the first mud flood and the second mud flood had caused in mainland Europe? A number of charitable institutions were established during this time, and these were the Children's Village, formerly known as the New York's Juvenile Asylum. The original charter for the Children's Village was officially founded on the 30th of June 1851 by 24 philanthropists led by Robert Bound Minton, who was collectively named in the Incorporation Act of 1851. The desperate and unhappy infants were moved from eastern United States on the locomotive transporters that were labeled the orphan trains or baby trains. This relocation of parentless infants ended on the 22nd of August 1930 due to the decreased need for farm labor in the rural areas of Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Lastly, the New York Foundling was founded on the 8th of October 1869 by Sister Mary Irene Fitzgibbon and the Roman Catholic Sisters of Charity. The New York Foundling then became one of the oldest and largest child welfare agencies of New York City. Once again, in the same time frame of the Victorian period, the bizarre incubator babies were exhibited at the World's Fair called the Exhibition of the Industry of All Nations at Bryant Park in New York City from July 1853 to November 1854. However, vast...
Have you heard about the Cabbage Patch Kids?
What is that?
Oh my gosh. You don't know about the origins of the Cabbage Patch Kids? It comes from the incubator babies. They were making babies in incubators, no mom, back when this reset happened because we were so depopulated that they were pumping babies out and then putting them in these orphanages. And yeah, it's a whole other topic.
Wait, but these people are obviously our ancestors.
They're what? Oh yeah, they're our ancestors for sure. For that matter, our ancestors might not have even had a mother's womb. They might have been conceived and then made in one of these incubators. There's like
really
documentaries.
So are you saying that even us, like, there's a chance that our what would it be? Our great.
Maybe a couple hundred years removed. So depending on how old your mom and mom's mom was when they had you, like my mom, I had my daughter when I was 19. My mom was 20 when she had me. My grandmother was about the same when she had my mom. So if you assume like it's like a 20-year generation, right? I don't know. If you assume 20-year generations, you're looking at what, 10 generations back. You could have, your great grandmother could have been, or grandfather could have been in one of these incubators.
Really? Wow.
And then spread the history they believe about themselves.
That is an eye opener for sure. We talk about it's known that we were created by the Anunnaki and stuff, but incubator hall, how sad
Yeah. There's a whole documentary series on that I think would be really enlightening for you. We could certainly have a
Yeah.
chit chat about that. But like, yeah, there's like a museum in the original place where the original incubators were set up in the U.S. Even for that, there's like a lot of stuff that people just don't know. But anyways, I'll push play again. I just had to
Yeah.
stop and ask you about, do you know like the truth about the Cabbage Patch Kids? They literally were advertising. They had postcards and would advertise to all of the people to go and adopt one of these incubator kids. And they did pictures of these kids literally coming out of like a cabbage, but like as just like a form of how they were like advertising it, and would have like a video, like their old school 1800s video. Maybe I can find that and share that with us before we go. But yeah.
Sorry, is it okay if I share something real quick? I mean, like
Oh, for
all
sure.
the stuff that you're sharing with me is just mind-boggling stuff, right? Like I'm a big fan of like, medieval shows and stuff like that. Like Game of Thrones and like like The Last Kingdom and like all these shows and stuff like that are very popular and stuff. I love medieval stuff because like I'm
Medieval guy.
I think it's like men, like we gravitate towards this stuff, but like now that I'm watching this stuff, I'm realizing like, wow, like all that stuff could have been fake. I mean, I've always kind of speculate on this stuff. Like I'm also a big fan of like shows like Vikings and stuff, but like a lot of like like the Vikings, like when they not conquered, but when they invaded England and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like, did they really were able to travel like that far and stuff, and like did they like how are they able to like like feed all these troops and stuff like a lot of stuff just doesn't add up.
Doesn't make sense, right? It
really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like how could you like feed all these and other things like not also like not to mention like would they really like kill each other with like swords? I mean, like I don't
know. It seems crazy to me. I can't imagine.
I was just now that you're presenting this incubator thing, like it just like made me started making I just like it just sounds like just a fairy tale to me. Someone just made it up just to make these characters look cool. Hey, they fought with swords or something like,
Yeah, epic battles. I mean, you got to keep in mind, even though we've had these resets, we've always had survivors. There's always been some seed of the truth that gets fed through verbal stories, histories. The Native American tribes, they have kept their verbal history among them. And so those of them that like have stayed off in the mountains, they've stayed in their tribes, they've never ended up like no history of ever ending up in any of these orphanages or any of that kind of stuff. They have completely different histories for what's happened with the world than what mainstream teaches us. Like,
do you have access to these people? Like do you know some people that have like a completely alternate history to like as opposed to what the mainstream is telling us? Like, do you know some of these like really like underground Native people that?
You know what? I know quite a few of them. Whether they would like come forward and speak out against the government, I don't know about that. I do know a lot of people in India. I know a lot of people all around the world that will very blatantly be like, the U.S. has been lying to you. No problem with telling you that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Russian government's very honest about like false history and things like that.
Are they really?
They're not telling the full thing, but they're telling a lot of it. They're definitely telling a lot more truth than the U.S. government does, and they certainly have a lot more truth regarding medical healing and even spirituality there than they have in the U.S. Putin's actually dedicated Russia to the kingdom of heaven and the protections of the Divine Mother, personification of God. And so, each country has its own culture, but you also have a global elite that has agreed to like keeping like things separate. And so, now we're at this stage where we have the internet, and so people can talk, and it's like you start talking to somebody in Ethiopia or in Uganda or in India, and talk about what world history is, and it's a different history than what we're taught in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, and all of us, as we're coming together and we're realizing, well, hey, they got something different they're saying over here, and they got something that's different over here. And it's like this info wars. Do you know about the infowars.com? It's a great page. But
Alex Jones, yeah.
We're literally in this information war, and right now it's just a matter of we need to unwind ourselves from the lies that were fed to us to keep us divided, and we need to learn the truth to unify behind it. And so, for myself, like I've told you, I've come across one particular Native American leader who's going to be running for president for his tribe, and very soon, the next elections. God has asked me to intercede and get these truths to him so that he can unify his people and unify the U.S., ultimately unify humanity by his role. And it's been very, very difficult because he's been so indoctrinated by, going to school in the public school system, by, generations and generations of racism against, whitey, and generations against, American civilization rather than against the government, people that have caused the issues. And so it's been very trying for me. I'm like, okay, part of making this is I want to send this to him.
Yeah, you should totally, 100%.
Yeah, and all the other Native American leaders, but he has a very, very special role that God has for him, and really wants for me to get this information through with him so that he can help unite the world. So, anyways, I'll push play again. I had to break away with the Cabbage Patch Kid thing. I'll see if I can find the
video,
Cabbage Patch Kid documentary while we're watching the last part of this.
Numbers of the incubator babies were also shown at other World's Fairs across mainland Europe and elsewhere on planet Earth. This activity continued right up to when the World's Fair, known as the Fremantle Industrial Exhibition, was organised in the port of Fremantle next to the Swan River of Western Australia on the 4th of October 1894. When this Pacific World's Fair ended on the 26th of April 1895, the incubator babies were then concealed from the public. The individual known as Martin Arthur Cooney was an obstetrician in the United States of America who became known as the Incubator Doctor. He established an amusement park slideshow called the Infantorium, in which Europeans, Canadians, and Americans paid 25 cents to view prematurely born minors displayed as the incubator babies. Whose children were the incubator babies? Where had they originated from? How was it possible for parentless infants to be exhibited as a sideshow at the World's Fair? Nothing that we have been given as the officially crafted narrative of history is correct. Most of the immigrants who left mainland Europe for safety reasons then settled in North America. However, the immigrants could not have constructed the massive buildings in locations such as Baltimore, in Maryland, and Richmond, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, alongside the numerous other urban settlements of the eastern United States that are seen in so many photographs from the Victorian period. The reason for this is because most of the urban settlements did not have industrial railroad networks, and most individuals had to use the horse and the buggy to travel around. Therefore, the evidence suggests that it is very likely the Tartarian Aryans constructed the elaborate and ornate buildings that were found by the immigrants who arrived in North America. There is so much more to this world to discover, and we only touch the surface. Remain open to possibility in this world. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next week.
Okay, this is a second.
This is by far, who made this video? Zachary Demon. This guy's a freaking genius. He truly deserves like a
Give him applause. We love you, Zachary
Academy
Denman.
Award or what? Or no, not.
I got another one for you.
You know what I mean. Like this guy's a freaking genius. I would love to interview this guy. This guy's a freaking wow. Well done on his research and all this kind of stuff. I certainly won't be able to like put something like this together. Wow, this was the most like interesting, thought-provoking thing I've by far came across. Like this.
Yeah. Well, you know what we do is we just create watch parties. We find the geniuses and we'll just have a watch party. Just 1 second.
Like I said, Chandra, I mean, the whole Tartaria thing, I mean, ever since I came across this 4 years ago, man, like I don't even know what to make of it. If it is true, it's certainly absolutely insane. It's I like the energy stuff that we do is like, crazy for the masses as it is, but like this Tartaria stuff is like really crazy as well. I spoke about this several times on my podcast. Like, I said someone needs to make a documentary called like I mentioned to you yesterday about like, there are no trees on flat Earth. Yeah, I think someone needs to make a documentary called like There Is No Wind on Flat Earth, meaning like a documentary on aerokinesis like Anthony does.
Aerokinesis? Oh.
It should be called There Is No Wind on Flat Earth. Like, in other words, obviously wind is wind. There is wind, but like, and there are obviously trees, but like it's not, the wind is not what you think it is. It should be, like the concept of the documentary and stuff and it's basically about aerokinesis. Like, hey, we can influence the wind can be influenced. Like, very few people know about this, like us, like underground people like Anthony and I are the only people that know about it. You know what's funny about aerokinesis, Chandra?
Like Aspire. Hey, the wind gone. I had a really trippy day once. I did it was a full moon or equinox. I was with a priestess friend of mine, and we went to go do some global healing meditation on the beach, and it was really windy, but we felt like we wanted to do like a candle ceremony, right? So we brought our candles down, and we're like, oh, it's so windy. It was like on the beach, right? I don't know what the heck we were even thinking to even bring candles to the beach, but so we're like, oh, universe, please stop the wind type thing, right? Light the candles. We were able to walk all the way back to my house. Those candles stood straight up. There's like, I think like one picture there's like a little bit to the side, but I think that was just from me walking. But like, it was like on the ocean, perfectly straight up. I was just like, yeah.
yeah. But Chandra, before we watch this repopulation, whatever thing, which I certainly am curious to watch this, I will definitely watch this. But before we get to that, Chandra, I really like us. We know you're an aerokinetic as well, very easily and stuff like that. But like the whole world, like I even get called out by like very high level chi masters, or like even like people who move side wheels. There's people who move freaking say aerokinesis is fake. That can't be fake. That Michael Grubb guy is not fake. That Anthony guy is fake. This stuff is so underground and stuff like that. This aerokinesis, like influence and wind stuff, and I think it's arguably just as important as the Tartaria discovery that guys like John Levi and like all these guys made several years ago and stuff. Like, we need to investigate what the wind is, because I think that can unlock the truth of what this reality is. Like, what is the wind? Like, where does it come from? Why can we influence the wind? Like, I've been like telling a lot of aerokinetics, like, over the years, saying like, dude, someone needs to come out with a documentary about the wind and the truth of what the wind is and stuff. And like, maybe Chandra, that's something. I'm not articulate. I'm not smart enough to like, put together like these crazy presentations and things like that. I'm not a science guy at all. I feel like, someone intelligent enough can come along and like make a video about the wind, and I think that'd be really cool,
I think you're selling yourself short.
What do you think, Chandra? What do you think about what I just said?
I think that we're going to create a documentary about the wind.
Not me. No way. Like I'm not smart. Maybe as a
you stop that. Like, I'm not smart. Well, it's good. At least you're using the word "not." Yeah, right.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
There's something that you want to know. You do like these Mind Unveiled people did when they started this journey down the Tartarian thing, and they just started there wandering. I wonder what this is, and they just presented. And this is what I found about this. And this is what I found about this. And the next thing you knew, they had like this whole documentary series. But it all started with, I have a question, right? And so where you're like, I'm not smart enough for this. I'm happy you're using the word not, because in neurolinguistic programming, that means that your subconscious mind has cut that out. And you're smart enough for it. And the question is there. And so all you really got to do is start asking questions. Okay, universe, I want to know more about this wind thing. I want to know more about why is it that if I want the wind to stop so that I can light this candle, or I can light that fire, or I want this fire to, go bigger, or I want whatever. Why is it that happens for me in certain circumstances? And yet for other people, they're always having to go through these laws of physics. It's like you defy the laws of physics through your conscious understanding of the manifestation of this reality. But there's still a certain paradigm that you have to live within, right? So we share a manifestation vortex. And for most people, that breakthrough moment, how we're able to manifest beyond what we're taught in school for science and physics, is when we've tapped in with the fact that we are one with the source creator energy. And so now it's like my will is God's will, right? And so if you've purified yourself and you're honorable and you're true and you are like this personification of God and the divine father aspect for you, and for the women, God and the divine mother aspect, right? Each and every single one of us is personification of God at different levels of consciousness to that fact. So once you become conscious of that fact, then it's like, whoa, okay. So God is here experiencing this reality as me. God is here right now as Chandra. God is here right now as Ken. Ken and Chandra are different personifications of God, enjoying experiencing this adventure of life and exploring this various interesting rabbit holes about our past history. As these personifications of God, we're enjoying this aspect of our life, right? So, if you understand that, things start manifesting for you. You can start to visualize, you know how to, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. You visualize those things that you want. It's like, I'm grateful for all of these things. Thank you. And then, what more is it that you want? You want to manifest that your channel gets, more vibrant and more people. You want to manifest that you start to be able to do things where you're autonomous and you're independent. You no longer have to work for someone else. Well, part of that is becoming someone similar to the people that I'm about ready to present with you right now, or the guy before. It's like, you've got a question? Do some research. When you present it, just be like, hey, this is what I found. It's like you give your aha moments, and this manifestation, you can have a heaven on earth experience right now, or you can have a hell on earth experience right now, regardless what your neighbors are doing, regardless if there's a war going on. I mean, most people just don't know it. But anyways, you're super smart.
Am I? Oh, I truly appreciate that, Chandra. I consider you incredibly intelligent and stuff. Like, like the stuff that you shared with me the last 2 days. I don't think I could quite articulate some of the things like, that you were speaking. But I do my best. So
yeah. We'll just add yet to the end of that. Anytime you say something that's like limiting yourself, just add the word yet to the end.
Okay. Okay.
I haven't mastered this information quite yet. I'm not ready to present this yet. Yeah. We'll have some conversations about neurolinguistic programming and what your manifestation is maybe sometime in the future.
Okay. Yes, certainly. Yeah. I think we should get back to the repopulation.
Okay, back to the repopulation.
Okay. I'm very curious to see this one.
Let's see. Does this one? Oh, that's the other one.
No, sorry to cut you off. So is this made by the same guy or a different guy?
Well, this one is Mind Unveiled. I suggest everybody goes.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this guy's channel like way back then before. Like he Okay,
So
okay,
this
yeah.
one's specific to the Cabbage Patch Kids and the repopulation postcards I was just telling you about. But they have a whole series on the Tartarian Mud Flood Reset that everybody should go watch. And well, you can hear their voices. They're awesome to watch before bed or listen to as you're driving or doing chores or whatever, you know. So.
Search on Old World Photoshop, we began to notice a trend with old postcards from the 1900s showing early examples of compositing. There isn't much information on these. If there's a catalog, it's not easy to come by. But many of these are early examples of photo manipulation. They had surreal, real photo postcards, in which they would attempt to trick people with the illusion of photography. As we continued to look through these old postcards, a very strange and unsettling trend started to become apparent. It began with just simple baby postcards. At first thought, seems like any ordinary postcard. But as with the same sky postcard mystery, where the author began to see a trend of a variety of postcards, well, there's a category of postcards that deserves its own name and label, but it doesn't seem very well known, as there are no websites or videos explaining this topic. We shall call it the mystery of the repopulation postcards. There are other names for this style, such as baby postcards. By the end of this video, you'll be shocked at how many of these there are. We're talking in the thousands. We found one reference to what these cards were in a book on Amazon named Babylon, Surreal Babies, in which the author describes these same peculiar 1900s postcards and how they were deeply influential to many famous artists, including Salvador Dali. Yet, the author even admits that little is known of their history. In order to understand why we've labeled them repopulation postcards, a thorough understanding of resets, Tartaria, orphan trains, incubators, asylums, and oddfellows will be necessary. These cards depict babies being grown. There are many different styles within this category. One of the most interesting is the Cabbage Patch Babies, a variety of themes involving growing babies.
Wow.
Babies on plants, babies on mushrooms, babies in the water,
Wow, that's creepy.
I know, right? I'm
babies
just
in
like,
nests,
my goodness.
babies in eggs being hatched.
You said
Then
watch this before
babies
bedtime.
arrive on the
No,
train.
thank you. This is like a horror film.
Uh, it's something for sure.
Oh my god, this is crazy.
This is all the early 1800s and mid 1800s.
This is insane. How do I not know about this? This is literally
There's something eerie about these photos,
Something
as
eerie
if
about these photos.
someone's trying to tell us something.
We've also got kids in cabbage patches. Does this have anything to do with the Cabbage Patch Kids? So, where do babies come from? In the early 1900s, the most common answer given to children would simply be that the stork would bring the babies, or that they were found in a cabbage patch. But why would babies be found in cabbage patches? The legend of the Cabbage Patch Kids involves a young boy named Xavier who meets a mystical fairy bunny bee creature, so a hybrid or chimera, and he follows this bunny bee through a secret tunnel behind a waterfall. On the other side of this waterfall, he finds that babies are being produced in a cabbage patch. The stork, known as Colonel Casey, would then come and pick up the babies. He even has his own uniform. So he's a worker, a soldier, as well as the Cabbage Patch Kids' official historian that would then deliver the babies to their new homes. Not only that, but there's an evil witch named Lavender McDay. She and her weasel and jackrabbit henchmen are literally trying to enslave the Cabbage Patch Kids to be miners to dig for gold in the valley. You can get all the exposition for the lore in the story through their 10-song album. It goes over how they were created, to the witch, to even a lament about their enslavement. It's pretty dark. The original concept for the cloth dolls was created by Martha Nelson Thomas, and she called them doll babies. And the story really had nothing to do with cabbages or chimeras or witches. It wasn't until Xavier Roberts, or Xavier, like the little boy in the story, hijacked her design that it became what it is today. So I can't help but wonder if Xavier Roberts just came up with the story all on his own. Like, did it come to him from the collective consciousness? Or does he just have a soft spot for child labor? There's actually a place you can go in White County, Georgia, where they do live births, and you can look it up on YouTube to see what I'm talking about. The bunny bee character also is a hybrid creature of two animals that both symbolize rebirth and resurrection on a mass scale. As we know, rabbits reproduce in droves, and the bee symbolism makes me think of a hive, or a queen or source where all the offsprings originate from. It would seem that this is some sort of reference to babies being created in a lab on a mass scale. Why were there so many orphans? Most common answer will be, the baby boom. But this didn't happen until 1946 to 1964. These postcards are from 1890 to 1910. And there's really no explanation for the burst of orphans that we see being brought into the United States, or the amount of orphanages and asylums that exist that no longer seem to be necessary. Could the baby boom narrative be a way to sweep this part of history under the rug? The orphanages were all shut down, and after the 60s, people just stopped having babies and getting married after World War II, according to the narrative. Then there were the incubators of 1900s. It's difficult to keep premature babies alive with modern technology, yet they were doing this back in 1835 in Europe. They turned this into a sideshow, where at the world fairs they would show off these child hatcheries, these incubators of live children, and for some reason the royals would come and witness these events. So there's this genetic manipulation cloning idea in which these babies are actually being grown in some sort of pods. Perhaps the symbolism of the Cabbage Patch mirrors that process. Humans do resemble plants in the way that we're connected to a stem in our fetal state, and our whole lives are spent ripening. In the fetal abduction theory, we typically see a nurse-looking woman with either a fishing hook or a fishing net pulling a child out of the water. Perhaps the hook and net represent medical tools and the water amniotic fluid. In either scenario, it would make sense that these babies have to end up in incubators or hatcheries. And it begs the question, how did all these premature babies get here? If women back in these days were having babies prematurely, why in such large numbers? And the babies all being babies, they'd have to have traveled there somehow within a short period of time. What are the chances that so many premature babies were driven from wherever their mothers were to these incubators all in time? And why do they charge people to view them as if this was some sort of exhibition or sideshow and not a pressing matter of life and death? For centuries, the stork has been thought of as a symbol for new beginnings and family lineage. The idea that this creature represents life-giving events also makes sense because storks are monogamous creatures, and they mate only once every year with their partners that they've chosen beforehand, choosing mates based solely on personality instead of looks, like many other birds. Now we've got kids inside a train. Orphan trains. Why so many orphans? Were these orphans taken from their families? Were they trained to instruct a new generation of genetically created babies? Or were they womb napped babies? And we've got kids growing on trees, kids being carried by storks. The Greek goddess Hera and her Roman counterpart Juno also favor the stork. And I'm sure you guys remember that quirky little teen pregnancy movie from the 2000s. And I suspect that Artemis of Ephesus is an ancient fertility symbol used by the elite to signify their ability to reseed a new population. So we've got hooks removing babies, kids in the water with a woman holding a net or fishing rod. Is the water the amniotic fluid, pulling children from the wombs of their mothers, perhaps? Could that be why there are so many premature babies? Or are they genetically manipulated? Cloning is not impossible. Just look at Miracle Millie. I think that the movie Aeon Flux is a great example. Hollywood is definitely alluding to this reality of artificial repopulation. The Cabbage Patch Kids sort of reminds me of those medieval occult books that depict humans growing from roots in the grounds or mandrakes, which are known to have occult properties for making one go insane.
Babies are also ready to join their elite clubs, and they're even given top hats. Technology, clothes, and empty cities? Babies floating in on boats, all signifying children being born or found and then taken by the mother, the one with the basket. Yet, this is a figure that represents the government's function as a mother, a corporate operation of generating foundlings in order to fill their newly emptied and burned cities with new humans. Whoever made these postcards are trying to tell us something very dark about the world we live in, as if it's humorous. There's an extraordinary amount of work put into these early photo manipulations. One would think there should be a good resource for these old postcards, but they are rare and difficult to find. Babies with hats, babies in the empty cities, babies with new technology, babies in the classroom, babies being brought in boats, and babies being grown in a variety of different situations. Is this some type of clever reference to the cloning of humans? We know of the sudden rise in orphans during the 1800s, but where do they all come from? Where do babies come from? All we can hope is that our minds may be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be
This
true.
was an epic horror film. Like, I'm creeped out like that. I mean, I've seen Mind Unveiled's stuff, like, way back, and I just kind of lost touch with their content for a while, but that was an epic. Well, yeah, I haven't I'm on the last year or two. I kind of stopped researching Tartaria.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff the cabbage stuff is relatively recent, I'm guessing, but man, that was effing crazy. Literally, that was wow. If that's true, whew, that adds more
There's
crazy.
more. But you know what? We're already at 1 hour and 22 minutes and 44 seconds. We can put a pin in it here. I have another 30-minute one that goes into asylums and orphanages and all that. But I don't know. I think there was a lot of information. Do you want to watch one more, or are you kind of mind boggled and want to close this one off?
How long?
If we watch one more, it's a 30-minute one, so we'll be right at 2 hours for this video.
Is it by Mind Unveiled as well, or
it is? It's a pretty trippy one. This one is titled, and we can put it in the description for people to watch. It's called "Prisons, Colleges, and Mind Control: Castles in America."
Wow. Yeah, I might have to go back to their stuff and watch it on my own. Yeah. Yeah, this whole thing is just mind-boggling. It's just, I mean, sometimes I ask myself, how deep does this rabbit hole go? You know, like I started researching like alternative, sciences, alternative like media, like energy stuff, like nearly a decade ago, and like conspiracy stuff for a long time, and like it just seems like the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and it just seems like the new theories, the new convincing theories that come out just keeps getting crazier and crazier and crazier and stuff. And I mean, I don't know if like everything out there is true or not, but like, man, like this the cabbage, the incubator stuff is just WTF for sure.
For me, it was like I had to go and touch it. Like when I started learning about Tartaria, I had to like come here and go touch it. Obviously, I grew up in Astoria, so I'd seen some Tartaria buildings, but I wanted to see places where giants had been. I needed to touch it, because there's so much AI being used and so much just false history and bullshit happening that it's like, okay, I've seen that on there. I've heard this from this person. I need to go and touch this, right? I need to go see this, talk to some people and confirm that. But, the most important part about this, because, for me, when I started going down this rabbit hole, so to speak, was like, what if any pertinence does this have to my life right now? Like, how is this important to me? And how is this important to humanity? And where this particular information becomes important is in that we are unwinding people from false history and showing them, that we are unified, but also that there is a government that has created the current paradigm. And that in order for us to unify, we need to be aware of that and be able to step back from it. And so a lot of people freak out and they see this and they go, my great grandfather might have been born in an incubator and our whole history might just be bullshit lies, right? And so they have this existential crisis within them. They're just like, my reality isn't what it seems and everything's horrible, and they freak out. But to me, it's like, how about if instead we're excited, right? Like, hey, reality isn't what it seems. All this stuff that I thought was like impossible, everything's possible, anything's possible, right? And, instead of feeling like, there's groups of people against one another and there's all this different, stuff going on. How about if I realize that there are global elite that are purposely putting us against one another, and instead I reach out to embrace these people of these other cultures and of these other faiths and of these other understandings, and do my best to understand them, and then also to help teach them where their history, our history, comes together and where we have been manipulated so that we can unify. And that's why this is important, because so many people is like, we're a couple hundred years removed from this, and so they've got 200 years of history since the last mud flood resets and big global catastrophes happened to where, people were too stressed out to even be paying attention. So they've got their 200 years of whatever history, be it, oppression of the women, oppression of people of different skin colors, oppression of religions, or burning of people who have spiritual gifts or whatever, those things supposedly happened. And then another thing, did they really even ever happen? As far as like, did they ever actually burn the Christed saints? Do you think God let that happen? It's like, because that happened before the last mud flood reset. But what would a government who would like to scare the people who are mystical and have these abilities to manifest in this reality, what would they want you to believe? What would they want to teach you as a child to prevent you from stepping into your power, right? They would want to teach you to be embarrassed about your abilities. They'd want you to teach you that there's something bad about being able to tap in and channel healing, or being able to be psychic and know what's going on, or astral project, or all those things. They've been declassified by the CIA now, but throughout my childhood and the last couple hundred years, all that stuff had been put away by the government, and anybody that displayed those abilities was chastised, locked away, told they were crazy. It turns out people with schizophrenia are actually psychic and talking to or getting information from other dimensional beings. And granted, there are other dimensional beings that are negative, but there are also other dimensional beings like angels, that are actually there to help you. And so, the psychiatrists or behavioral health specialists or these different people, if they are unaware about the interdimensional beings and they have somebody come in and say, well, gosh, I've been getting these messages and I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that, this psychiatrist or behavioral health person like, schizophrenic, let's give them a bunch of Prozac. And, it's like, well, wait a minute. What's going on here with you? What's your messages that you're receiving? What kinds of things are happening around you? What are the circumstances surrounding that? And so many people have just been shamed and just walked away instead of being celebrated and taught how to use those abilities, how to work with those abilities. And like the Book of Solomon taught about the truth of angels and demons and the kingdom of heaven and protecting yourself from demons and collaborating with angels, right? But that's been taken out, so if you take that out, you take out the Book of Enoch that talks about, the conjunctions and the matrix glitches and all the reality changing, people coming into this time frame right now are completely without any foundation to be able to know what the heck is going on right now. Like so many things are changing, and I feel like I'm getting these abilities. I know things. And so many people feel that way, and they just zip their mouth because they're afraid of being judged. And so, if we can get this kind of information and start just pulling those strings out, just a little string at a time, a little rabbit hole at a time, we can unify humanity. We can help people to become unity conscious and be aware of the fact that they are each a personification of God at different levels of consciousness. Okay, it's this personification of God. You are here as the best, most amazing auto mechanic ever, right? Whatever it is that God put you here for. It's like God put you here for a purpose. You're here as this personification of God with semi-conscious, partially amnesia, right? It's like if you feel passion that you love to work on cars, you feel passion that you love to be a baker, you feel passion. That's the passion within you that you're here to express, And so when you're in school and they're telling you got to do A, B, C, or D, get into one of these labor forces, and they're forcing all these other things down your throat, it's like, how do you step into being that divine purpose, or that divine version of yourself that you're here for? Be it as like the best of artist, or the best baker, or the best teacher, or the best whatever. Like you have to be aware of the fact that you're here to do that. Everybody's here on your hero journey. Everybody's here on, their various karmic, trainings. But we all, each and every one of us has things that we're naturally inclined towards. We have things that we feel called to do to help and be in service to humanity. And that's that needs to be something that people talk about. And
certainly. Yeah. Chandra, there is something that I do want to talk to you about, but we definitely can't. I definitely can't talk about it on air for sure.
Well, let's call it off.
Yeah. Like it's way too controversial, but I mean, if you are aware, but I really want to hear your thoughts on it. So, do you mind if we wrap this up and have like a very private conversation? Because I mean, like obviously this whole cabbage thing, like
that's controversial right there.
Literally, like I'm like rethinking about a lot of stuff right now that I have plans about, and my future. A lot of my perspective has changed like in this last 2 hours, so or hour and a half, whatever. So yeah, do you mind if we have like a private conversation?
Yeah. I was thinking I needed to get a wife, but now I realize I just need an incubator to get that kid.
Yeah, not quite going there, but like maybe a little. Maybe
I don't need a husband. I just need an incubator. It's like, I want a daughter. Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Hey, guys, I'm going to give the link to this other Tartaria explained video to Ken to put in the comments. And God bless you.
I mean, I definitely want to credit all the resources we shared today. So if I do put this on my channel, I will definitely link to all the amazing, incredibly intelligent people that.
Oh, for sure.
To give them credit. So Mine Unveiled and whoever the other guy, the first video I watched, and
yeah,
you guys are amazing. So
They are awesome. They're amazing. I love them both. Okay, well then I'll go ahead and close it off. God bless you all.
Yeah,
See you
yeah. But yeah, I was still